It's Cyclone Sunday with Ben Bruns. Breaking everything down from the Channel Seed Studios. This is Iowa Everywhere.
Happy Cyclone Sunday. It's a great day to be a Cyclone. You know, every day is a great day to be a Cyclone, but some days are just a little bit better than others. It's Cyclone Sunday. Ben Bruns, Aiden, Wyatt here. Iowa State 29-21 winners over Kansas State. They finally get that 10th win.
And I think I can finally take the stocking hat off.
Yeah.
You know, it took a while to thaw, but
man.
Yeah, you know, great crowd. A great crowd.
I think it was a sickos only crowd, which made it a little more electric.
You know, it was crazy. There were people who left at halftime, but not that many. And, you know, I looked around in the middle of the third quarter, and all of a sudden we're running the football again. And it's like, okay, this is what we all came for, right? So,
yep.
Or maybe it was late third quarter at that point. But, you know, this team hasn't been the most graceful to watch at times, right? They haven't extended leads when they've had advantages. They've been a little awkward at times. Complimentary football. They've made some mistakes at moments. And I thought the first half, right? I mean, Chris said it on the show after. There was a moment in the third quarter where it was 2-1 in yardage, and we still had the lead somehow, but not by much. And you know, you think about, like, let's just talk about what didn't go well. I thought our first down efficiency, well, I shouldn't say I thought. Our first down efficiency in the first half was awful. I mean, awful. Like, the results were bad. And I felt like, what are we doing? Like, this doesn't look like, I mean, I don't know what we're trying to do, right? This isn't things that we've tried to do before. And K-State was going to stop the run first, and they were going to make Rocco beat them on a day that was a hard day to throw the football. I mean, Avery Johnson struggled to throw the football too. There were a lot of teams with as cold as it was and as hard as that football is, you know, especially quarterbacks who aren't huge guys. You know, that's why you see a lot of NFL quarterbacks have bigger stature, because they play so many games late in the season, right? And you got to have a big hand to wrap around that thing and be able to, you know, control it on those cold days. But, you know, somehow that magic formula sort of came into focus in the second half, and all of a sudden Iowa State's running the football super effectively. And I think the play action pass on first down was what it took to start to open up the run game for Iowa State. You know, we were kind of bashing our head against the wall to begin with, running it out of some weird formations. Like, there were times where one first down play, we had a formation over to their sideline, which brought the corner down on our side of the field. And then we run the football kind of back to the left half of the formation, right in the unblocked corner, you know, and he makes the play for a you know, no yard gain, right? And you're like, that like, conceptually, like, why, right? Like, just put a wide receiver over there, because then that guy's never in the box against you, right? And so it was stuff like that was sort of frustrating for me from a football perspective. But when we got into more of a balanced look and started to run the football and have a little play action, a little mini boot, you know, it really opened the game up. And, you know, you think about, in that game, there were so many more plays that Iowa State game open than plays that K-State could have made to break the game open. And I think coming into this game, to imagine that Iowa State could, you know, really dominate that much without Rocco playing that well, because Rocco didn't play that well, right? And a part of it is the cold. I think what a great job by the rest of this football team, you know, not having Malik Verdon, and we played that well defensively. I mean, I was shocked Jeremiah Cooper got beat twice by their speedster, and good work by K-State to get that matchup underway. You know, so twice he ended up on one and man coverage up the seam, and the kid just outran him, and Johnson hit a great ball over the top. But besides those plays and a couple of plays to the tight end, K-State wasn't consistently productive offensively. And, John Heacock brings the heat at the end of that game that forced Avery Johnson into a really bad decision for the safety. That was a masterful play call defensively. I just think Iowa State deserved to win that game every which way. They did all the things that we've worried about or we've wanted them to do, right? That whole mentality thing, that whole expect to win thing, that whole expect success thing. They handled that so well. And I think what that presents going forward in this championship game with a lot of unknowns, right? It's amazing that Iowa State could be at this place where, they're one of 4 final teams that have a chance at this thing and haven't played the other 3. So we'll see how good the other half of the conference is when this all comes to be. But, Iowa State should have beaten Texas Tech, who is a common opponent of these two, and should have beaten Tech reasonably handily, in my view, but didn't take care of that business. And they're one of ASU's losses. So, I think I'm excited about the matchup. I think Iowa State fans are going to turn out like crazy down in Dallas. And what a great win for the seniors yesterday and for the staff. And for all the guys around them that have done the thing. This is big time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll get to more big picture things, but I want to talk about a few individuals, specifically on defense. Tayshaun James obviously had a very rough game against Kansas a couple weeks ago. He comes out and leads Cyclones and tackles on Saturday.
What a turnaround. And we saw it a couple years ago when Cooper was out, right? And, guys have to grow up when they're forced into duty like that. And, to do it this quickly, though, is wild. It really is. I mean, to come along that fast, I think is a great tribute to Tayshaun, and I think also to the staff in helping him prepare and him embracing what went wrong a few weeks ago, and just really stepping up in a huge way. And what was crazy was the part that you sort of didn't even like. There were all plays where you're like, you couldn't even tell who tackled him, right? It was like, it wasn't like, he's out there making plays because they're coming after him. They really couldn't come after him, right? And I think that just says, I felt like the linebackers, again, Will being back is such a huge deal because, for the second game in a row, he has really been that guy who's made tackles in space at the edge of the line of scrimmage that if he doesn't make that tackle, it's a 30-yard gain, and he made those tackles. So hats off to both those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Darian Porter. This guy, I mean, he goes down in Cyclone history with guys like Joel Lanning, and which these are my favorite kind of guys. I mean, Darian Porter has become one of my favorite players Iowa State has ever had, just because, we talk about the process and the culture and all these buzzwords that everyone seems to throw around. A guy who, comes in as a speedster receiver, doesn't see the field, stays here in a time where it's so easy to just say, you know what, I'm going to pack up and I'm going to go play somewhere else.
Yeah.
And he flips to defensive back, becomes a guy who's probably going to get drafted now. And he's been a great special teams player. Again, I think he blocked it with his helmet last night. Regardless, it counts as his 5th block kick of his career, which is just insane. And you know what? One thing, too, the first thing he does after blocking that kick, he goes and hugs Matt Campbell. Yeah. You want to talk about the process and culture? Yeah. That's it on that play.
Yeah, heck yes. That was so cool to see those guys interact. And, there have been all these memes of Matt. I was doing the exact same thing, like the exact same motion around in the stands, a couple more fireballs in than Matt was. But, it's so cool. It's so cool. And I just think, you're right. It's, he's from deep Hawkeye country like us, right? And for Darian to have chosen Iowa State and to, have had the ups and downs of that and, had the lack of success against Iowa that, we've had in the last number of years, and then to have 2 of those wins now under his belt, which is a huge deal in the last few games. So I just think it's individual effort and excellence inside of the construct of team success, right? And it's funny. We were talking on this program last week about some of the philosophy of Steve Jones, who was the great coach at Kimberly High School in Wisconsin. And Matt Campbell, has worked with Coach Jones, who works with the Packers and several others. Got a great consulting business, and he mentioned this term that isn't there's no Americanized word for it, but it's this idea of joy of others' success.
Mudita.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Right. And so, that whole notion is really true. You can see it, you can see it come through this team. And I think Darian really embodies that. And what a great thing in this society, right? And I'm going to get on a soapbox for a minute because what I saw in college football yesterday made me like, what are we doing? A backup guard, running out, and it was funny how all the Michigan guys who planted the flag at the center, in the middle of Ohio State's field, didn't have much grass in their jerseys, right? Like, who are you guys? It's a backup guard who is carrying the flag out from, he got it from the sideline after almost everybody else is off the field, and then they come back to midfield and plant it. And then the guys that are, immediately to the case of responding and brawling are they're also Rans at Ohio State. It's like, well, okay, I guess you guys didn't play, so you want to have this, have this thing, right? That makes us all look stupid. It makes us all look stupid, right? Nebraska not shaking Iowa's hand, who are you? Matt Rule, you're a puke. You suck. And you know what? You told those guys to do that. You suck. So I just think, and then the trend continued, right? The North Carolina and NC State. It's just like, man, that whole sense of civility, right, is just gone in American society, and B, this idea of graciousness, right, and you see it so many times within teams too, right, where somebody does something that puts the spotlight on them instead of puts the spotlight on the whole, or it does something better for the whole. And here's what I'm grateful for. I'm grateful that we have a football team that, K-State was after it, after the whistle, a lot yesterday. A lot. Like way too much, just on the edge of something all the time, right? And I know that that's the kind of climbing way. It's a little edgy. It's a little, we're going to play beyond the echo of the whistle. And I'm a big believer in that. But there's a point where it's like, this is, bordering on not being sporting. And Iowa State never fell into that trap, right? They never fought back. They never made a big deal out of it. They're like, all right, we'll go play another play. Matt Campbell has coached this ball club with class and dignity and care for each other. And, you hear them talk all the time about how, especially the seniors in their remarks after, how grateful they are as people for this experience that they've had. Right. And it shows up in little places like what we're talking about, right? That we're not having these conversations about Iowa State games, right? So I can't wait to see what happens next Saturday in a game against a really skilled very passionate underdog story. Arizona State team that, neither team is getting what they deserve from a national recognition perspective, right? The four teams that were at the end of this thing for the conference, Bloomy tweeted we're 4-1 against Power 5 competition, including being the ACC leaders' lone loss. I was looking at Tennessee's schedule last night. They haven't played anybody.
No, not at all.
Nobody, right? And so they're automatically in. I mean, it's like this whole thing. I mean, OU, who's awful, right, pounds Alabama. Georgia should have lost. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's no question Georgia Tech was better, right? So it's like Miami is a weird team that hasn't, but I'm not going to say the ACC is bad. I'm not going to say that, right? Because I don't think they are. I think that there's a lot of parity in college football. I think the SEC is not used to this new playing field where everybody also is paying players just like they have for years and years and years, and that was their edge. Because they would bend the rules farther than everybody else would, right? And there were teams other places that did it. Texas for sure, right? Among others, OU for sure. Maybe Nebraska didn't do as good a job paying players as they did back in the day. But, I just think there's a lot of parity in college football. And you can't tell me that Iowa State can't go on the road and win with fair officiating. And, I think that's the piece that's going to really be interesting as this playoff all unfolds. The seeding is going to suck. I mean, there's no doubt that we're going to get put someplace, provided we win, whoever the champion is, mm-hmm. and the runner-up or another team. I mean, I think there was a lot of angle by the media, the sports media, ESPN, to somehow get Colorado in the playoff mix, as opposed to one of these teams, because then maybe two get in, right? Mm-hmm. But as it stands now, I don't see anybody going to bat for Arizona State and Iowa State, whoever doesn't win the game. But yeah, let's go win the game, and then you go play for a national championship somewhere, even if you have to go to the almighty SEC's home field.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Cyclone Sunday here on Iowa Everywhere in the Channel Seed Studios. Iowa State 29-21 winners over Kansas State. All right, let's dive into big picture things. We talk about Mudita a little bit, the joy of happiness of others. I felt like I had a lot of that last night as they take the final kneel. I think of guys like you and Ryan Harklaw and Dan McCarney, who really set the foundation for all of this. Think of guys like,
why not Iowa State?
Yeah, like Chris Williams, Brent Bloom, all those guys who have been through this. John Walters, Eric Heft. I think of my dad, who I think they won less than 10 games while he was in college at Iowa State in his 4 years. So many people that have been through the worst of it.
And I want to take a minute just on this too, Aiden, because I love where you're headed here. There was a really sobering moment yesterday in the game, and Iowa State had things kind of going early in the first half of the game, where our kid captain was no longer with us. And to his family, standing there on the field, and the crowd didn't even really know how to react, right? Because it's just like, oh my gosh, like you knew where this story was going, and it was like you want to cheer or support them, but you can't. It's like cheering feels so wrong in this situation, right? So to them, and to all those, there's some great Cyclones, couple little kids that aren't with us, and So there's a lot of people that care about this football program, and so it goes into the fan base. It goes into sure, those of us who played, but this is a great win for so many reasons, and a great tribute to people who love Iowa State and did not get the chance to see this kind of thing happen. But go ahead, man. Go ahead. Keep going.
Yeah, I mean, it was so cool, for Iowa State to finally get that 10th win. I mean, thoughts and prayers to all the haters out there. They lost a lot of ammo on Saturday getting that 10th win.
Yeah, all our Hawk friends who tell us all the time, I never had 10 win season. You know what? We've only been playing 12-game regular seasons for a while, right? It's not like this has been around that long, but sure, great. Yeah, we appreciate you. Yeah.
And of course, I was happy for Matt Campbell. Yeah. I mean, he came here, what was it, 9 years ago now? And he went to a place where people told him he couldn't win. I remember people saying it was the worst hire in college football when he got the job, that might have been the Toledo job. Either way, talk about haters. That guy has been through it all. I mean, he comes here, sure. We talk about raising the standard, trusting the process, proving it. Yep. And he's done it time and time again, and he just wins games.
And I think there is a natural cycle, right? I mean, Mac had us in a place where, we'd be good for 2 years, including really good 1 year, and then we'd kind of fall off, and we'd be good for 2 years, and then we'd have to rebuild it. We'd have to, once we got over that hump in that 2000, 2001, 2002 time, right? Like 03 was hard, but then 04 and 05 were great. And then, 06 was hard, and he would have built it again and had a chance to do it again. I mean, it's going to be a big thing to not have these seniors next year, right? And we're going to have challenges in the transfer portal, and, just like being able to NIL and like Bloomy and what, Hoodger and all those guys have done to keep this team together coming into this year, when so many guys could have gotten paid so much more money elsewhere, right? It's like that's a whole different wrinkle of all this that is so wild. So, you're going to have these ebbs and flows, and Hark spent a bunch of time talking, who, by the way, is doing a hell of a job in his role. He does a great job on our radio broadcasts. He was talking about the Ohio game right last night, and brought it up to Matt on the post game. The fact that the Ohio game last year was really a turning point for the team, right? And Jalen talked about it, and to hear the story, like everybody's sick, everybody's got food poisoning. Rocco was puking at halftime to the point where he wasn't even in the locker room area where everybody else was. He was just throwing up the whole time. And then he goes and plays a great second half, and all of a sudden everybody realizes that we've got a quarterback, right? And from there it sort of took off. And individual sacrifice to collective benefit, right? And there's so many folks that fit in that category. I mean, we haven't talked about it enough on this program, but Jared Hufford has a hell of a season at center, a great season. And I sure hope that, he gets some of the love that he should get in the postseason awards, because he's been awesome. One of the best.
Talk about another guy who changed positions for the betterment of the team. For
sure. Yeah, he's played all the spots up front, and it really is a great football team, and it's made up of individuals who are all good at what they do, including the best wide receiver duo in the country, right? Which is something that Texas was recruiting Jalen after the game with them 2 years ago, right? Higgins has had all kinds of opportunities to go other places, right? But he's going to go to the NFL and have a great career there because, of everything that he's accomplished and who he is as a person. at Iowa State. So I just love that. That this team is having this success. And those seniors are going to be missed, man. To imagine, not seeing them play in Jack Trice again is really hard. It would be nice to host a playoff game, but anyway. We'll get screwed up at that one. But,
yeah, long live the walls of this team has crashed through getting that 10th win.
Right.
Playing for a Big 12 championship now. It still kind of feels surreal as we record this at 9 a.m. on a Sunday morning that a lot of people counted them out after 2 losses. And, I think Chris has said it a couple times. They lost the right to have their own destiny, or to control their own destiny.
Yeah.
And for them to get it done, it feels like this is not the Iowa State of old.
Well, but I also I want to pause on that second, like riff on that thought, right? Because it's come up a couple times, and it came up on the post game last night. Jalen said, "Hey, look, Iowa State at times has been the laughing stock, and we didn't want to be that." I'm kind of tired of that.
Right there with you.
I'm tired of that whole idea that Iowa State football isn't a winning enterprise, right? Because it is. Iowa State football is a winning enterprise, and it has been a winning enterprise for quite a while now. And yes, the modern, variant of it is a huge part, like is the most significant reason why, right? We had a couple great teams back in the 70s. We had the start of something different in the 2000s. But we've sustained success now to a point where people are used to seeing Iowa State in the top 25, and they should be, because we are. And so, I don't want us to continue to lean on on this idea of what we don't have. I mean, I was shocked by the statistic that in the last 17 years, and so the data isn't all exactly current about what donor bases give, right? But in a 17-year window, and this information's about 4 years old as of maybe a year ago when I saw it. Okay, so who knows what it is in the NIL era, because the data hasn't caught up to that yet. But prior to that, in a 17-year period of time, Iowa State's combined donor contributions to the athletic program were 42nd in the country. That is a number that is so much higher than I thought it would be in terms of the rankings. You know who was 43rd? Nebraska. If you want to know why Iowa State is better than Nebraska at everything, it's in part because of what you and I and others have done to help support this athletic department over the course of the last 20 years. And so, these things, there's cause and effect. And Iowa State doesn't have a medical school. We don't have a law school, which is typically where all of this sort of foundation dollars come. Iowa outspends us dramatically, right? And they were way up the list from us. But where we are and what we've contributed and what has gone into making this a sustainable endeavor, I think there's a lot of credit that goes to a lot of people. And I go all the way back to Gene Smith and Martin Jischke, still believing in Dan McCarney after 5 seasons of pain. We'd started beating Iowa, but we hadn't had a winning season, right? And so, it took until Mac's sixth year for us to go 9-3 and win the first bowl game in school history. So let's stop this idea that Iowa State isn't an elite program. Let's get the idea in our heads that Iowa State is an elite program. And I'm not sure what Matt Campbell has to figure out next year about what it is that we're going to do to bridge the gap of these seniors that are so prolific in our history. But I do believe that we'll figure it out, right? Because being at Iowa State is pretty cool. And the guys who play in the NFL that are from Iowa State, you can tell they love Iowa State, right? And you don't see that everywhere in as you watch NFL games, right? Like it doesn't just show up that, and hats off to the University of Iowa too, right? It's clear that that's true there as well. To see Purdy and Kittle, show up and have to wear the helmet. Mm-hmm. I'm so glad that Brock didn't have to wear Kittle's helmet, because it would have been slopping around all over. Yeah. You look like a little kid in that thing. But, it's just not the same world that it was once for Iowa State, and we should stop acting like, we're an also-ran. Like we're in the Big 12 championship game. We're a 1-point favorite with the initial line, and we should expect to win in what's going to be a hell of a game against some great players, right? I mean, Arizona State went out and rejuvenated their team through transfers and good coaching and all of those things, right? It's a skilled football team we're going to go play. But let's expect to win, man, because why not? But let's do better on first down, because that was driving me a little nuts.
Well, Cyclones, why not now? But please, tighten up on offense a little bit.
Come on.
All right, I think that's a good spot to get out of here. Again, I mean, I'm just so happy for you and all the guys you played with, all your coaches, that it's been a long time coming for a lot of this.
Thanks, Aiden. I appreciate it. And I'm happy for the coaches and the team and their families. Right. This is so hard. Right. This is so hard. Like you don't. People don't appreciate, especially in this modern age of Twitter and or whatever they call it these days, and. I just, what families endure, right? I mean, like Anthony Becht, right? Like he's this like shining light of optimism and levity and focus and little glimpses inside of the head of Iowa State football on Twitter. And I love my dad, but I thank God that that's not him. This stuff wasn't around when we were doing this, right? So it's like it's a different era, and it's hard, right? It's hard for these, and coaches get paid a lot of money, and they deserve it. It's a hard job. But this team has found a way to make it about so much more, and for their families, for the players' families, for the fans, for all of us who are committed to this. This is something that's super cool, and I've always believed we could do it, and I'm grateful that we're doing it now. And there's unfinished business, right? There's opportunity ahead, and all those things that we said about last week, that Iowa State needed to do coming into this game, that we had to believe, that our fans had to believe, that that everybody had to expect success.
Can't back down. No fear of success.
Same thing, man. Like this week, same thing. The week after that, same thing, because that's the only way you get what you want in all this. And I'm convinced that Iowa State can really upset a lot of people in the college football world this year. And we should be talking about underdog stories. But for whatever reason, sort of everybody's fixated on the Goliath not getting theirs, right? No, no, we're gonna keep coming at you. So
absolutely. All right, Brunsy, thank you for your time as always. Great show. Appreciate your time. Thank you for everyone who has supported us out throughout the year. We always have fun doing this. Can't do it without all of our listeners and viewers. Make sure to go check everything else out on Iowa Everywhere. This has been Cyclone Sunday from the Channel Seed Studios. For Ben Bruns, Aiden Wyatt. We will see you next week.
Go State.